Hi, I'm Max Litchfield, Team GB Olympian from Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2020. This is my pre-pool routine. For me, pre-pool's hugely important for swimmers of all ages, especially at a young age compared to senior athletes like myself. I think if you set a good base and foundation at a young age, then it's going to help massively when you get to my age. The reason I do all this stuff now is because I got an injury, which probably could have been avoided if I'd done these things to start with. So during this video, I'm going to take you through the exercises that I do so that you guys can see what an Olympic pre-pool routine is like, and hopefully you can take some of these ideas back to your training programs at home and implement them into your daily routines. Okay, so normally the session would start with some mobility. This is all about mobilizing the body, making sure it's loose and get the body warmed up from head to toe, really. So one of my favourite mobility exercises is a down dog. So from like a plank position, essentially, you push your hips in the air, and then the one I like to do is where I'll pump my ankles and get a really good stretch through my calves, and then come down into what we call the cobra, and you can kind of rotate on that as well to kind of get some thoracic movement going there. In terms of reps on this, you can kind of play with it as you wish, but probably heel pumps 5 to 10, and with the rotations at the top, 3 to 5, anywhere in that range. As slow, as fast as you want. Again, you can do it as you wish. Okay, so the next exercise, one that I use pretty much daily. Lie on your back, flip your legs above, over your head, and essentially do scissor kicks. Try and get your feet as close to the ground behind you as much as you can. And you'll get really good mobility through your lower back and through your hamstrings. And then from that position, after you've done probably 10, 20 kicks, you come back up, and into a sitting position, and then go into some thoracic rotations. Again, the same with the cobra as before, just trying to mobilize through your thoracic spine and really get that rotation going. Again, translating into the pool for freestyle rotation, essentially in the water. So the final one here that I like to do is just a hamstring extender, probably the simplest exercise we'll cover today. Essentially just bring your thigh up to 90 degrees and extend through the knee, trying to get essentially to straight up towards the ceiling. If you can't quite get that range, don't worry about it. The more reps you do, you'll get more range through those reps. But again, with this, don't force it. Just go to where you feel that stretch in your hamstring. You don't want any arching of your lower back. Imagine you're pulling your belly button into the ground. Put a hand behind your back if you need, so you can feel the pressure on your hand as you pull through. Now you've done all that mobility, you should be feeling more loose and supple, and we can now go into the more activation-based exercises. So this is focused on your shoulders and your hips mainly. The key areas for me when you're transferring into the pool are your shoulders and hips. They're the ones we're going to focus on activating today. So in terms of why I do shoulders, essentially, you're using your shoulders a lot when you're swimming, and you need them to be strong. You need them to be healthy outside of the water as well as in the water. And certainly for me, after my shoulder injury in 2018, it was something that was a huge focus of mine. Even now, I'm still doing it every single session because I know that if I slack off for even a day, I've got the potential of the shoulder injury coming back. So very important to work your shoulders, and again, something you should be doing every session. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to go through today is with this bad boy, the old body blade. So this is something I used right back when I first got my shoulder injury in 2018. I basically couldn't do it on my left arm to start with at all. I had no movement whatsoever. Okay, so essentially with this, you work in the rotator cuff. One of the most used muscles in swimming. Obviously, you're doing so many rotations of your shoulder when you're doing, especially when you're doing lots of freestyle swimming. So this exercise, you're aiming to keep quite stable through your trunk, and essentially just use the momentum of your shoulder to come out sideways. It's quite difficult to get the hang of it at first, but once you get it, it gets going. So if you essentially just copy what I'm doing on the video, you'll get there eventually. In terms of reps, kind of just, I would go up and down 3 times on each arm probably per session. I'll do this maybe 3 times a week, mixing it in with the other exercises. But essentially you can play with it as you want. And this is one of the ones that's just, mix it up. It's a little bit different to just your classic TheraBand exercises. If you're interested in buying a body blade, check the link in the description. So the next exercise is with this. It's called a power spin. So essentially the same as the body blade. I started using this just after my shoulder injury in 2018. I guess essentially it's the same as the body blade, using rotator cuff again. And with this one you can kind of, again, do what you want. You can kind of draw the alphabet out with your arm, but essentially again it keeps it mixed up. It's something slightly different, and it's pretty hard. So it gives you a good workout, and again keeps your shoulders very healthy and in good shape. In terms of like knowing what your limit is, I think you'll have a good idea when you get going with it. Essentially trying to spin the ball around the circle, and you'll feel it when you know the momentum is dropping, and you can't then keep the ball moving. So that's probably the point at which you need to stop. If 3 reps is too much, then you start at going up and down once, just in the frontal plane, and then you go. As you progress, you can add in the sides, and you can add in trying to do the alphabet. So if this is something that is very hard, then don't push it too far. That's the same with all these exercises. Is just work to your limit, do as you need to do. So the next exercise is kind of a generic TheraBand exercise. I try and combine all of these individual exercises into one shoulder circuit, I guess. Essentially, it's harder, so it makes you work a bit harder, and again gives you some more shoulder strength and stability. And again, it takes you through all the ranges of what you're going to be doing in the pool, especially the one above my head where I'm doing breaststroke. Very specific to what you're going to do on a breaststroke pull out, even though it's single arm. Essentially it's again working the rotator cuff, working all the stability muscles around the shoulder, making sure that you're strong and you can have longevity through your stroke and through sessions in the week. So in terms of like how I would structure the exercises here, essentially just go back to back to back. So you can go from the one where you're going up and down into the rotations, and then into the breaststroke pull out as separate exercises. But for me, I try and do it all as kind of circle round, and I'd even go from one to the other and then back to the first one again. In terms of reps on these, kind of the same as the body blade in terms of the ones where you're going up and down, probably 2 to 3. If you're fatiguing and you can feel the form, you're losing your form, then stop at that point. The external rotations and the breaststroke pull out one, probably 5 to 10 reps each side. And with this one, just make sure you're keeping your core engaged throughout the whole exercise. Obviously that's what you're going to be needing to do in the water. So again, translating that from land into the pool. So in terms of hips, essentially the same as shoulders. A lot of repetitions, a lot of movement goes through your hips, especially if you're a medley swimmer or a breaststroker. Hips are very, very important to warm up and make sure they have good range and they have good strength in those ranges. Again, for me, this kind of came about from an injury. Touch wood, it's all good now, but every now and again my hips just flare up and they get bad from essentially just too much load. So this is again something that has to be done every session, essentially just bite-sized chunks. And these exercises are generally the ones that I go with, just to make sure you're fully activating through glute and the posterior chain. So the first one is like a side-lying abduction. So make sure you're pulling your leg behind your body line, so you're activating through glute. The more you're activating through your glute, the better. Again, this is something that I struggle with. I use my quads a lot for everything, and don't use my hamstrings and glutes. So making sure you're activating those and making sure they're fired up and ready to go for the session is really important. So essentially, in terms of height and range on these, you're probably like 1 to 2 feet. Again, just making sure if you do feel any pinching or pain that you stop at that point. But you should feel the work through your glutes and the side of your hip. In terms of reps, again, probably 10 to 15 each side is a kind of a ballpark I would go with. And again, if you are feeling pain or it's getting too much, then start at a lower number and build your way up through the sessions in the week. Okay, so the next exercise is a glute bridge with a band and then an abduction again. Essentially, you're wanting to control yourself through the glute bridge, again activating through your glutes, and then making sure once you're in that top position that you don't let, as you extend your leg out and abduct, you don't let your hips drop on the opposite side. Again, activating through your whole chain as you will in the water. If the abduction is too hard, you can start with just the leg lift, and you can reset every time as well if reps is too much. But essentially you want your whole body to be in a flat position. If you were to look from the side, you would have an angled flat line essentially when you're in that top range position of the glute bridge. Again, probably 10 to 15 each side, or you can just strip this right back and just do a glute bridge, and again 10 to 15 reps on that as well. So essentially we've hit 3 components there. You've got mobility, you've got shoulders, and you've got hips. And for me, they're the 3 key areas we should be working on in any pre-pull session. As I've said before, you can switch the exercises in and out, and you can do different exercises to these. These are just examples of ones that I use in my daily routine. Hopefully this is something you can take away and add into your home programs, and kind of make pre-pull a bit more interesting. And yeah, hopefully I can keep you fit and healthy and in the water.